what separated your deep ball from everybody else?
My deep ball, it has a little secret sauce to it, man.
Never get too high, never get too low, but just keep moving.
The whole story is Carlos never beat me in any kind of sports in high school.
Welcome to New Stripe City and Zim Hude. We bringing you the Orange is the New Black podcast. Zim, say what's up.
Hello, world. How's everybody doing tonight? We're doing a very, very special interview, very special podcast, something very near and dear to my heart. We got a young entrepreneur that's taking over from the Natty, doing this thing. Introduce yourself, means tell the people what you're doing, where you at tonight.
We got you on mute, bro.
Yeah, let's see. We good?
Yep, we good.
Yeah, first and foremost, thank you all for having me, man. We appreciate it. We really do. We down on Elm Street, black-owned outerwear, celebrating. This marks our 10th year. So this is our 10-year run, 10-year anniversary. Fortunate enough, we just collaborated with the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think that's what we're here to talk about today. Stripes don't come easy, capsule, and whatever else y'all want to talk about, man. I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
You said Elm Street, right? Tell them the exact address on Elm Street. So anybody that's near that area right now that they could go pull up, cop some stuff, whatever. What's that address?
Yeah, we at 822 Elm Street, but we also at 824 Elm Street. So we got black on and black coffee adjacent to one another.
So obviously, like you said, you have the black-owned outerwear store, but you also just mentioned black coffee. So obviously, you had so much success with black-owned, which was dope because I remember copping my own black-owned shirt from you back in 2013. But the black coffee thing is big. What made you kind of want to enter the coffee industry after having so much success in the clothing industry?
Well, yeah, really after working on black-owned for 8 years, I was just really tired, and I needed something to keep me up, to keep going. It was coffee. No, but on a more serious note, no, man, I'm a huge coffee drinker. Love coffee, love the coffee culture. Some of the best spots around the country when you're traveling, you pop in a local coffee shop. You never know who you will meet, and love coffee. And I realized that here in Cincinnati, we have really good coffee, but all of the coffee shops are, really similar in what they offer. And we wanted to be able to offer a different experience, but still provide a good cup of coffee. So the two cultures overlap: clothing, coffee, fashion. Our shop here, actually, I'm sitting in the shop now. It's based around street culture, hip hop, and the arts. So there's a lot of overlap between the two shops, and it works for us.
That's facts.
Earlier, you just talked about it too. Before you got into the shop, you were talking about the campaign with the Bengals, right?
Yep.
So for anybody that's just seeing you for the first time ever, tell people about that path, how you got to a point where you're collaborating. I mean, I know you do other stuff too, but like even, to get to the point to collaborate with a Bengals organization.
Yeah. So one, like I said, we're celebrating 10 years. So we've been around a decent amount of time. But the Bengals actually reached out to us. That's what made it really exciting. They reached out to us and they let us know that they were looking to, make a powerful move and that they wanted to collaborate on something. And we were excited because, one, I'm a huge Bengals fan. My family, everyone's, huge Bengals fan. So it made sense for us. So when they reached out, I think it was right around the time I had saw that the Bengals were really, taking the lead in the NFL, making statements around, just the racial inequalities that we deal with in the country. And that was big because I can't say that I always felt like our team, made that a priority, but knowing that the new direction and that was a priority, it got me excited and I really wanted to work with the Bengals. So, and it's just one of those things. You grow up, you want to play for the Bengals. It doesn't happen for all of us as athletes, but to be able to join a team in a very unique way was exciting. So we wanted to get, this collab out there. We wanted it to represent something other than just fashion. Like all of our pieces, we were able to capture that as well. And the Bengals have been really supportive throughout the whole thing. In terms of helping us push the campaign. It's been a partnership, and we'll continue to push it. I think this collaboration, the way that it works, the collaboration runs a year. So we'll be running it for almost a year, and then after that, we hopefully we continue to work with the Bengals, but it won't be in collaboration with the Bengals and the NFL.
Oh, that's dope, bro. So you said that you were a Bengals fan growing up. Who were some of your favorite like players from the team growing up? Me personally, I'd probably say like Corey Dillon and Rudy, but who would you say were some of your favorites growing up?
Yeah, I would say my overall favorite is Ocho, man. Like, growing up a Bengals fan, it's tough. It is what it is. Every year you start out with this enthusiasm. This year is our year. And then it gets crazy as the season go on. We don't win as many games as we planned for. But you still come back the next year like I'm Cincinnati through and through. I'm Houday through and through. So Chad came through and he just made it exciting. Even though we weren't necessarily winning, it was just exciting to be watching football at that time. So Chad, TJ Hushmanzada, got to put him out there. I would say Chris Collinsworth, just because what he's done for the game of football. Boomer Esiason, of course, Anthony Munoz. Those are all of the players. For me, it's that what else have they done outside of football? If you talk about people like Anthony Munoz, he has a crazy footprint here in the city of Cincinnati through his charity, also his brand. So those are the people, that come to mind.
Man, if you get a chance, our best interview I think ever is TJ Hushmanzada. If you've ever seen that one, anybody that's in the chat tonight, whatever, that's an awesome interview for a Bengals fan for real, because that is the realest to ever do an interview. It's raw.
I'm gonna have to catch that interview. I like him. He was raw as a player. He gave you that. I can't think of what's the wide Hines Ward, right?
Mm-hmm.
He gave you that vibe for the Bengals.
He definitely, bro. We was asking him real stuff, and I mean, and to this day, if you just follow him or whatever, he's the person that's gonna keep it the realest. I don't care if he's on TV or whatever, but he talks exactly like how he plays and vice versa, and it was just awesome to talk to him, I guess. So I thought that was really dope that you said that was one of the guys that you like. Moving forward, on this team, you talked about the enthusiasm. One thing that me and Ace try to do is keep the enthusiasm, going with the fan base, on a year-to-year basis, right? Moving forward, the number one guy that I think that gives the most Bengals hope is Joe Burrow, right? From your perspective, what do you when I talk to people, I tell people get ready for a Super Bowl, and they think I'm a little crazy, right? But from Joe Burrow's, what you've seen from him so far in the NFL, whatever, do you think that that's the path to our success? Do you feel like it's just not just a Cincinnati thing and you're being a homer by just believing in something something so great, in Joe Burrow that I believe he's the savior. Do you feel as strong about that?
Yeah, I'm excited about Joe Burrow. I think this year was this was one of our most interesting seasons, or at least for me. It was it wasn't really a good season for us at all, but still there was this excitement around it because Joe Burrow is here in the city, but it's Joe Burrow, but it's also the players around him. It's I think if you're watching the NFL now, you see that the power is changing. You have this year Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Kansas City Chiefs again. So it's changing. I think Cincinnati Bengals has an opportunity to get right in there with the young talent that we have on the field. And some of the guys that we work with on this capsule, really, I feel like they fire. And it's going to make the difference in the next couple years. We got some great young players. They hungry. I'm right there with you, man. I don't see one. I see us winning our first playoff game in the next year. I think we can do it this year. And Joe Burrow's down right now, but it all makes for a great story. It don't come easy, right? So
you got to earn your stripes.
Yeah, we know what type of athlete we dealing with. We know what type of leader we dealing with. So I can't imagine Burrow back stronger just because he knows that people are going to doubt, what he's going to be able to do when upon his return. We're gonna get there though.
That's facts. So you've had a lot of people come through, rappers, Jeezy and stuff like that. But who were some of the notable athletes that have stopped by the shop?
Athletes?
Well, you could talk about the athletes in the campaign currently right now, though.
Yeah. I would say that many athletes, stop by the shop. For this, Tyler Boyd, we had Sam Hubbard, we had Sean Williams,
Von Bell.
Von Bell. I mean, yeah, we got to mention Von Bell. That game against Pittsburgh, I feel like
that was a classic moment.
A lot of people with that.
Yes, sir.
That's what made this whole project fun, for myself and the team, because it wasn't like the Bengals were like, we want to do this thing, we're gonna hand it over to you, let you do it, or it wasn't like we're gonna do this thing with you, we're gonna monitor, let you have a little bit of. It was really a partnership. The players got involved and the players got excited. In fact, had the opportunity to get on a Zoom call with all of the players at the campaign, tell them what the vision was for Stripes Don't Come Easy. And they all got really excited. And Joe Burrow was so excited that right at the end of the call, he was like, I'm on board to be a model.
What?
Yeah, we were so turned up about this. Like, I was turned up. I was calling like, oh.
Yeah.
Model, is,
you know what's so crazy about that? And this is just, it goes straight to this. One of my friends, or I consider a friend, like through Twitter, he like DM'd me to the side. It's a white guy. And he said, hey, what is it going to make me look like if I'm wearing an I Am Black, I'm a Black owned shirt or sweater or something like that? It's going to make me look like I'm just a get with or something. He was like, I just really think the designs are dope.
Right.
And I told him I think it's a win for everybody, like if a person's like, can you speak to that to maybe the person that isn't Black watching this and looking at the brand and saying like, man, that's dope, talk to them about that, I guess.
Yeah, so Stripes Don't Come Easy wasn't just like because we wear stripes as a team, It was a reach back for me as a Black owned business, right? We understand the challenges without going into debt. We understand the challenges that Black owners go through from all aspects. So that it was that part, those stripes that I had to earn to be here, to be able to even get this opportunity. But also the stripes as a nation, as a community, to earn those stripes that where we coexist and that we have thriving Black businesses, and that isn't a threat to anyone, but we're able to celebrate that as a community as a whole. So this capsule was intended to bring everyone together, to say like there's no divide, and the middle ground is Stripes Don't Come Easy.
Right.
In expressing that through the campaign video, it was good because in the past, people there's always been those questions from our customers who aren't Black. Can I wear it? And the answer is absolutely yes. Our brand transcends race. We created it to empower Black people, of course. But in order for it to really, live up to its fullest potential, have the strongest power, is everyone has to be able to embrace it and see that it's important for, our communities to be represented by the percentages. Like Cincinnati is almost 50% Black. So, Black businesses should represent that. And communities should represent that. And that's how you have healthy communications, healthy relationships, all of those things. So this capsule is for everyone. Every Cincinnati Bengals fan, it really doesn't matter what walk of life you're from, where your background is. You're representing the Bengals. You want to be fly. You want to make that statement that you understand how important it is for businesses like ours to be in the community. It's the capsule for you. So, right. Stripes don't come easy for all of us.
That's all that's all the reason why Joe Burrow need to be with.
You know what? I think it'll come back around. I really think it was just because he wasn't able to be one of the models. But as you see, we ended up with 6 other, really good dope athletes part of the campaign. The people that we did work with. At some point, Joe's story, like his return, is really it represents the campaign. So we'll figure out those things in as we go. But right now, we're just rooting for him, and we want to see him speedy recovery.
Definitely. Well, Mans, we appreciate you spending some time with us. We know that you got to go and make some more deals. But before you get out of here, please let them know where they can find your stuff at.
Yeah, so we're online, Black owned. 19xx.com. That's www.blackowned19xx.com. I would say the best way to engage right now with us is on Instagram. Instagram, because that's where we're putting most of the content. Posting pictures on Twitter as well. But engage with us so that we know you're there. Let us know that you've seen the capsule. Even if you're not purchasing, just send us a shout out or keep going. And we here for the city. We'll continue to be great representation for the city of Cincinnati. So follow us on Instagram. Just connect with us. Stop in. Check out the jungle. We recreated, like we built the jungle inside of our storefront. And a bunch of plants, greenery, just to mimic our stadium. So we want people to come in, experience, take pictures, do all the above.
Right. I do have one quick question before you get out of there too. With the Bengals changing their uniform this upcoming, I think they're gonna probably release it right before the draft. Why haven't you talked to them about, or have you talked to them about that? Because the one thing is everybody throwing out all these crazy mocks. Like, even if you go to my page, I got fire on there. Like, everybody got some crazy mocks. If I see you guys collaborating with them right now, you talked about the 1 year thing y'all got going right now. This would be a good time to throw out some ideas, I think, so that we can kind of keep this thing going for the history, especially from somebody straight from the city like yourself.
Now, that would be crazy. You know what I mean? That would be crazy for us to design a uniform and they wear it on the field.
I'm just saying.
I think it would be crazy. Now, I do think there's some type of litigation that's in place there because of the uniforms are produced by Nike. So I don't know really what that is there, but we would love to explore it. But I mean,
do you like the current uniforms?
This year, what we played in this year?
I think a lot of people complain about, what's your favorite? There's been 4 Bengals uniform changes, right? Yeah. But the current one, the most of the feedback that I get is people don't like the white underneath the underarms. I don't know if you really pay attention to all the details of it. It really wasn't even really like a big topic to me until I got on social media and I saw so many people saying I want to change it. And in my mind, I'm thinking bro, we got the best uniforms to me just off the helmet. But what would you do if you could change it?
Yeah, I would say I agree. One, I think Bengals have one of the dopest concepts and uniforms in the league, period. So, but I would say my favorite, to your first question, I think one of my favorite era is the Jeff Blake era. Like, when you see that jersey, that joint was crazy. And everybody didn't necessarily feel like you had to be a Bengals fan to wear one of those jerseys just because of how dope it was. I think because of social groups now, we stick to our teams more so than the fashion, and we're trying to break that as well with this capsule. We want people who may not be Bengals fans but realize that it's a dope, piece to rock it. I would say I couldn't give you an answer on what I would change on the uniforms right now, because I would have to sit with it. I would go through the times, reach back in the archives, figure out how to twist it and make it our own. But I like the uniforms. I like them
too. You talked about the Jeff Blake one. A lot of people that's the one that I think people 50-50 split on the most. When you say Ace, it's the actual the tiger when it's jumping, on the middle of the field.
Stripes. Yeah, I love the Jeff Blake one though. I got that in the closet right now. I kind of want to go back to those. That's just me personally. Right. The new kind of twist, kind of like how Tampa went back to their OG kind of uniforms, not the creamsicle, but the ones where they had Sapp and all of them boys, and then did the new twist on it. I kind of want to see that, but yeah, I think those are definitely the favorites for sure.
Did you see we actually took the 3D tiger off from that era and used it on the vintage tee?
Yeah. And see, one of the comments earlier in the thing was man, I like the classic hoodie with the tiger. And then when Ace was showing the merch just now, I was like, bro, that seemed like a home run thing. I don't know, bro. You need to use your connects and make some phone calls.
This here is from 1996, and it was so we let's go back. Let's put that on it.
That's another way that I feel like your brand just collectively just joins everybody in the city together, because just that element of it, lifetime Bengals fans, older guys that I when they tell me about players that maybe I've never seen, they're going to see different things on your apparel that I think connect with them, and hopefully like everybody buys into this whole thing. Actually, not hopefully, everybody will, because this is what's going on right now, and now is a great time to be a Bengal, bro, and it's a great time to be an entrepreneur. I'm so happy you could join us. I feel like you're so healthy for the culture, and it's all love. And everybody that came tonight to check my man Means out, like, make sure you tell them your Twitter and your Instagram, please.
Yeah, so Black On is at I'm Black On. My bad. It's at I'm Black On everything. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. My personal is at I'm Macho Means. So I'm Macho Means on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Yeah.
Appreciate it, bro. Thank you for joining us, man.
I really do. Thank you for having me, for considering us and making time for us on the show, so we up for a bit. I'll have to come back again. Maybe we'll do it again after more pieces.
Yeah, that sounds dope, bro.
Got to. I told you I got some players too that I definitely want to connect you with too. So it's going to be more than enough reasons for us to connect. And I feel like it's so special that we all got together and did this. And I think time is going to show that this is going to be a really, really important interview.
Absolutely. And next year when we win, and we'll link up.
Yes, sir, Ski.
All right, man.
Yeah, y'all take it easy, man. Peace. Black On.
Yes, sir. Bro. Man, that was a dope thing. I wanted to say it because I knew he was short on time, but I think that capsule that he said, like he said, growing up in Cincinnati, it's always been two different sides, right? But what brings those two sides together is the Bengals. Like, any kind of conversations, it's almost crazy. Like, one of my friends that lives down here in Florida that's from Cincinnati, that's one of the reasons we became great friends, was because of the Bengals. And I think that the Bengals bring the city together. So to do a collab like this, like the stripes don't come easy, bro, dope.
I'm telling you, hey, look, when he was talking, I was just like, man, you just, like, this is the time when they're changing the uniform at this point, even if it's something small and subtle. Like, I think about it, if I could draw or I could do different things like that, I know that with all the conversations that I have on Instagram or Twitter with people that are so passionate about this uniform, it got me thinking, like, damn, like, what would I do? And like, from it, I think I posted some of my favorite ones, I think, on my Instagram page, but there's some ideas and some different things that I think about constantly that I think would really, really stand the test of time. So it's just all about opportunities, and that's why I was encouraging him, like, shoot, use those connects, like, even if it's just one element of like, hey, look, I want to sketch this part and make this a part of, like, this era of the uniform.
Or like if it's like the alternate jersey or the color rush or
color rush, like
color rush.
Man, I'm all for it. But speaking of jerseys, I don't know if you guys watched the playoffs this past weekend. There were a lot of different jerseys that went home. Cancun on 3. We sent some boys home. I do want to address something real quick. I put out a tweet, and people thought I was coming at, different people. And I want to tell people that it was not coming at specific people about, like, I put out a tweet that just said that, hey, I'm a Bengals fan, and there's a lot of Buffalo love out there, right? Because the Bills over the week, or it might have been a dark horse pick for a Bengals fan, considering what they did for the Dalton Foundation and these weird connections that we had with the Bills.
Right.
But for me, it was just a little too lovey-dovey. And for me, I'm just a Bengals fan, so passionate about just being a Bengals fan that I couldn't imagine clapping and going crazy in my energy. If anybody seen me on a Sunday using that energy towards another team, like, it just doesn't happen. So I'm not here to tell anybody to be a fan, but I just was just saying, like, I just thought that was a little weird. If you guys are vicariously living through another team, then I don't know, like, that's not the wave to me. Like, cheering for other teams or wanting somebody else to win, cool. Like, I do that every weekend. But for me, I put a little money on it. I did not want the Bills to win. And they did not. So Take that, Josh Allen, you and your mustache. But moving forward, I wanted to say, what were some observations over the weekend, if you caught any of the games that you could see? Maybe did you catch any influence from those games that you thought that the Bengals could use?
So I think with the first game, I kind of wanted to see that, just as like a fan of football. I wanted to see Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady go at it, right? Because we've always heard the comparisons. It's almost very similar to I take it back to basketball when you had Kobe and LeBron. They had all those puppet commercials and stuff like that. We always wanted to see them like in the finals, right? I felt like this was somewhat of the NFL equivalent of that, even though I kind of really feel like Tom Brady actually is kind of LeBron with him playing elite at like an older age. But then there's Aaron Rodgers. So it was dope to kind of see that. And then it made me feel good because, like you said, when you look around the league, you got Pat Mahomes, you got Josh Allen, you got Aaron Rodgers, you got Tom Brady. These are teams with notable quarterbacks, and we have one. So that part of it made me feel a lot better. And then it was just seeing with these guys both having strong offenses, who was going to have that edge? Like what was going to be the edge in that game between the two? And I think when I watched the Buccaneers and Packers game in the first half, it kind of was like Tom Brady just knew that he had to get as many points as he could because he knew Aaron Rodgers was coming. Like when he had that, they could have took a field goal. And I think that's where coaching kind of comes into it as well. But then he doesn't take the field goal and he literally throws a touchdown with 1 second left on the clock. So that was interesting to see. And then Aaron Rodgers coming back and the decisions that were made by the coach to not go for it and to take the field goal was just extremely.
How about Aaron Rodgers on that 3rd and 8 though to lead up to that decision? Like the play before it. Did you see? You know what that play kind of reminded me of when Joe Burrow scrambled and Chase Young met him at the pylon.
Right.
I mean, that's not the play that Joe Burrow got hurt on, but it's not to say that Joe Burrow is better than Aaron Rodgers. I'm not insinuating that. I'm just saying that it was so much green in front of him. I played the replay, even I posted on Twitter. I just thought that he had the easiest shot to just run for a touchdown right there. And even if he didn't get it, you're looking at 4th and 1. So then maybe the coach isn't even going for a field goal. And then he goes to the press conference and says, yeah, that wasn't my decision to go for it. I just felt like Aaron Rodgers should have owned that a little bit more because to me, he kind of choked. Like the throw in itself, he had a couple other plays that I thought in, what's his name, Devontae Adams or whatever, wasn't spectacular like he's been every single game either. And that's not saying that it was his fault, but he wasn't. We watched the Chiefs play, and Tyreek Hill and Kelsey were spectacular. Right. So when I talk about skill position players for the Bengals or guys stepping up, we need T. Higgins to be what Tyreek Hill was if you ever won a Super Bowl. And so that's the conversation about is he a number one? Because could you imagine T. Higgins even doing that? At that level, and that's where, for me, it's load up weapons. And I saw Tom Brady has a lot of weapons. And, and the Definitely. Chiefs have a lot of weapons. And I just think that that's a super underrated thing. It's load it up, and you could fix some other things later. You cannot skip past the offensive line ever again. Right. That's very clear because the pass rushers that are still left are going to come get you. And one thing that happened in the Tom Brady game is that every single shot, every time that Tom Brady made a mistake, his defense bailed him out. And to me, that's what is asked of. That's what I think the Bengals should always be looking for, because you're not going to be able to fix it all in 1 year. Early Tom Brady for the Patriots, the first 2 years of him starting was 200 yards a game and methodically, move down the field, control the time of possession, and win football games, right? Right. Joe Burrow should be put in that same type of position in his early years because he's got a long way to go to probably being this champion that, that we all believe we think he is. But to throw 50 times a game, I thought, looking at the Buffalo Bills game, you don't have a shot without a balanced team. And I thought that was very telling too. It's you can live and die by throwing the football, and the Bills died throwing the football, and it was good enough against teams that were really good, but it wasn't good enough against teams that were excellent. And the defense for the Buccaneers, I just think that's a very obtainable goal. Top 15 defense, right, for the Bengals. In a defense that rises to the occasion in big moments, 5 sacks would impact players. You're not going to get 5 sacks from this front, but opportunistic defense that's going to be able to make plays when they count and matter the most. That's why you have Mackenzie Alexanders and Von Bill and Carl Lawson, people that can make plays, so that even if you don't have the best defense the world has ever seen, when it's time to make a play, go make a play. And you want that from your quarterback. And I think Joe Burrow is more than capable of doing it. But I think a lot of blueprints were put out there this past weekend.
No, I agree. I think, like you said, the Tampa Bay Bucks, they just have a really, really good balanced team. You know, you talk about 3 seasons ago, I'd probably say their defense was nowhere near where it's at now. And it kind of started with picks like Devin White. They went and got Shaq Barrett, free agency signing. So piece by piece, they went and traded for Jason Pierre-Paul. I think they already had Levante David. They went and drafted some young corners. I think SMB, Sean Murphy Bunting, he had the interception off of Rodgers.
He's a piece.
They took one dude. What's the safety that they took last year? His dad was in the NFL.
Was that the dude that he knocked himself out the game with that hit on his shoulder, number 32 or 33?
I can't recall him. He's like a junior or something like that. He was a beast. He caught my eye. Winfield Jr. He caught my eye last year.
Their safety caught my eye yesterday. I don't know if it's 32 or 33. Somebody in the comments could tell me, but he was out there hitting. And I'm talking about like anytime it was a run play.
It's like Mike something.
I forgot. I cannot think of his name. My mind went blank. But Winfield Jr. didn't play in the game. He is going to play in the Super Bowl. Antonio Brown will play in the Super Bowl. And then on the opposite side, Le'Veon Bell is going to play in the Super Bowl too.
Right. No, I was just speaking to like how they built their defense and stuff like that. Vita Vea and stuff like that. Edwards, yeah.
He knocked himself out of the game doing exactly what I'm talking about. Like meeting it, like Von Bell, like watching Tyrann Mathieu and watching, you know, like what Von Bell's capable of doing. If you give him a good pass rush, I really feel like he can roam and make plays on the level of Tyrann Mathieu. Is he Tyrann Mathieu? No, but the level of playmaking that he's capable of doing, I just really think that, like, you know, that's a guy that makes impact plays, and I think the consistency comes with DJ Readers of the world.
The other thing, though, too, why their defense got so good is that they hired Todd Bowles. They hired Todd Bowles to come in and kind of change that defense. So he's able to – it's really going to be interesting how he plays Kansas City, because they're a team that blitzes, and we all know if you blitz Kansas City, Mahomes is just going to eat you up. But I think that the Bengals – I'm not going to say that we can just try to beat a bus, because Tom Brady kind of lucked out with that situation, because most of that team was there, right? He still did get there. They did bring in AB. They did add to a lot of those pieces and things of that nature. But I think where you're right is that this is an arms race. And I think that's what Tom Brady saw when he got there, when he saw what Pat Mahomes and that Chiefs offense did to the 49ers. He was just like, we got to overload. Like, we got to add Leonard Fournette. We have to add AB. We have to add Rob Gronkowski. You got to come out of retirement. Like you said, it was an arms race. And
I'm going to tell you, like, from a staffing perspective, that's the number one thing that stood out to me, too, is that I feel like there was a lot of buzz about the Bills offensive coordinator in the offseason, but he was clearly outmatched in that game. And then you're looking on the opposite side of the field. I mean, the run, like the ways that they get the football. Like, if John Ross isn't watching the Chiefs play and just saying, like, I don't even have to catch the ball. Like, you know, like, that was one of the reasons why I think Curtis Samuel will be a really good pickup for us. But he has to be utilized right. The way that Andy Reid runs those plays, it just keeps the defense on their back heels the whole entire game. In contrast, you're watching the Bills and you're just like, I know that Josh Allen's just going to sling it. You know, like, pretty soon they're going to have to pay him. I just think that the blueprint more so to me was the Chiefs. Early on, like Pat Mahomes' game is similar to Joe Burrow's game. Early on in Pat Mahomes, well, he doesn't have the arm strength, but as far as like what he's asked to do for his football team and what he's capable from a mobility standpoint, he's not the fastest guy. He's going to scramble. He'll make you pay if you cheat and you go man and turn your back to him, right? But ultimately, early on, they had to piece it together, and they got him, and they got some weapons around him. And remember, the biggest Achilles heel was their defense early on. They knew that they had to score like 40 points a game. Flash forward to 2021, I just think that it was a good message to say, like, if you don't do everything all in one year, you can work on those things to then bring in some guys like Tyrann Mathieu later on to say, this is how we shore it up. And no, we're not going to be the number one defense. And yes, we're going to have to pay out, because pretty soon, you know, Joe Burrow's going to be on that 5th year and he's going to have to get real money. but I don't have to have the most elite defense in the whole entire world. And I can still get there if my defense just makes enough plays to keep the opposing team in field goal type situations. Another thing that is really, really telling about the staff of them is this. I posted this earlier on my Instagram. Do you know that nobody that is coming to play for the Super Bowl for the Chiefs is a first-round pick, right? And that's not to say that the Bengals should not draft Panay in the first round. But to me, it's a coaching question and it's a staffing question. And I think Frank Pollock is going to be the guy that makes that turn around from an offensive line standpoint. But let me just run this off to you. At left tackle, Rimmers is going to start because Eric Fisher went down in the game with an Achilles tear. Left guard, Allegretta is a 7th rounder. The center, Redder, is a 7th rounder. The right guard is Wisniewski, who was cut by Pittsburgh in November. The right tackle is an undrafted free agent guard. They have nothing in the first 6 rounds starting for them going to the Super Bowl. That doesn't mean that you don't have to address the position, Bengals fan. I'm just saying that the emphasis has to be on coaching, and you have to understand that when you have an elite quarterback at that level, he's going to manipulate the pocket a lot better than the average guy. So you can't look at it like a Browns fan has to go get the best offensive line in football. He'll never be Joe Burrow. I'm talking about Mayfield. He'll never be Joe Burrow. They can show me every stat in the world that they want about his last 8 games. He played like a top 10, whatever. He'll never be Joe Burrow. So what you have to do from a personnel is get everything you can around him. Right. Give him the best offensive line in football. And what happens? You go to the playoffs and they still needed more weapons. They needed Odell and they needed a tight end to dominate the game to get over that hump. And they'll have to go chase after the same thing next year. And the defense kind of failed them in some spots too. But I just think that, like, looking at Pat Mahomes and how he got there, it just is like an eye-opener I think that Bengals fans should pay attention to, is that don't exhaust everything in the world on your offensive line, or don't exhaust everything in the world on this defense wins championship concept if you have a quarterback that can eliminate some of those flaws in the process. And then you don't negate – You don't just turn your eye to any of those positions. And to me, it's about getting the best players. Like, you look around their roster, at certain spots they had the best players. At certain spots they don't. But the ultimate goal is, like, have your quarterback go win you games when it's time to go win them.
No, I mean, I agree with that. I think, like, some teams are just really good at building offensive lines together, and it doesn't matter where they get them. I even go back to the Steelers like a few years ago. Some of those dudes were undrafted guys and stuff like that. It just depends on are they good or not. The other thing is, though, I think one thing that Andy Reid has always done well, outside of, I think, like Jeremy Maclin, most of his, like, notable receivers, when you talk about Djax, even when you talk about Tyreek Hill was drafted in the 5th round. A lot of people forget that, and most of that was due to his off-the-field issues because people knew that he was good, but I don't think anyone thought he was going to be this good, but they knew he was good. And then you talk about Travis Kelce, 3rd round, but I think things have kind of changed where you're not going to get Kelce.
How about Kelce?
Like, Kelce is unstoppable.
I think he's top 5 in the NFL right now.
I mean, he just led the league in receiving yards.
No, not tight end. Like, he's the number 1 tight end.
He's the number 1 pass catcher.
But as far as an NFL player, like, if Aaron Donald's like number 2, number 3 now, right? As far as, like, talent for me,
right?
Who do you think is the like? I feel like Travis Kelce is probably, like,
you gotta give it to Mahomes just because Mahomes is kind of.
All right, so Mahomes is number 1. Who would be like number 2? Do you still put like Khalil Mack or somebody like who's your top 5? I don't care what position in the National Football League.
Number 2, who am I putting at number 2? I mean, are these players that can just win by themselves?
Just win by themselves, best players in the National Football League.
I think you got to put Aaron Donald in there just because the Rams shouldn't even, like, Jared Goff to me is not good. Like, they shouldn't even be there. Like, honestly, I probably would put him up there. I think number 3, I'm probably gonna go. You gotta go. The quarterback position is hard to, like.
I see. I still gotta put.
I probably gotta go with Rodgers, even though he just took that L to Brady. Like, him being at the age that he's at right now, I think I would probably still go with Rodgers because he just did all of that with only Devontae Adams. Like, he didn't really have a wide receiver core or a tight end that was like
you know who
like
he
that.
needs. You know who he needs.
Yeah,
Though.
definitely. I would put Kelsey there. I put Kelsey at
I'm there.
I put Kelsey
there.
at 4
I'm there.
because
Kelsey, like
seeing him cook Denzel Ward like that, like a top corner, like there's nobody that can guard him. It's just, and I remember watching the game. I think was it Romo that was calling the game. He was like, "Look, if they don't guard him this way, he's gonna have like 20 catches. Like you can't guard him that way." So
it's too crazy though, because when you go and cheat and pull up and try to shade anything over there, Tyreek Hill's speed just goes on these deep crossing and just goes all the way to the opposite side of the field. It's like there's no way to stop
those two guys. You
gotta when you play the Chiefs, you have to just make sure that you put pressure on Pat Mahomes and he just has a bad day.
Can't even do that. You can't even, because he's waiting for you to do that. He'll just like, bloop, all right, bet. Now I know where it's coming from.
And Joe Burrow, and that's to me, like that, and then that's where I think your mock comes in, where somebody says, well, why would you go that high on Kyle Pitts, right? It's super risky.
Right.
But watching what they did, like if you could go to free agency and go get speed like a Curtis Samuel for, I think the money allocation, I did a thing I'm going to present to everybody maybe tomorrow. But the money allocation with the top of the NFL says that the Bengals probably have, after AJ is gone off the roster or whatever, they probably would allocate maybe $7 to $8 million to that position. You go get like a Curtis Samuel or somebody with some speed. And then when you go to the draft, you're looking at like a Pitts to like it's really risky, but if it worked, I just think the blueprint what the Chiefs are doing right now is exactly what the Bengals should be doing. Like people are trying to like sell themselves short and be like, Jim, you can't get this is not Madden. I'm not saying a Madden type situation. Like a lot of this, a little bit is banking on hope that Kyle Pitts is exactly what you think he is if you're going to draft him that high. But if you're looking at the formula on how the Chiefs got really, really good, really, really fast, like they got fast really, really good. Like 5 years ago, the Chiefs, you would have never thought about the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Now look at them. They're looking at well, I mean, I guess with Alex Smith,
let me ask you.
I don't think you would have thought they would have won a Super Bowl, is what I'm saying. And they just with a supreme head coach and then one quarterback that has the power to cross out a lot of flaws. Right. You were able to like get something in place and then start going to legitimately start talking about a dynasty that quick.
What if so a lot of people, I hear people talking about go get vets and stuff like that. You have to remember, people, since we've had this tight end evolution, it didn't just start here. It really started with Rob Gronkowski back in the day when it was the Rob Gronkowski thing, the Aaron Hernandez, Jimmy Graham, and all of that. But if you remember, they got pissed. Like a lot of tight ends got pissed because they're like, we're putting up receiver numbers. We need to get paid like receivers. So when you say you want to go and get a younger vet tight end like that, just realize you're still going to be paying that same number as you would a wide receiver. You have to remember, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, Zim, CJ Uzomah, I think, makes around like $6 or $7 million a year. And that's CJ Uzomah. So you're talking about getting someone better than him, like a Jonnu Smith or something like that. You're gonna have to pay. Like
the name I keep on hearing is Everett from the Rams, which probably, and I hear Josh Reynolds a lot too, from a wide receiver standpoint. But Everett,
get them all. Why not? Like to me, I think a lot of people,
they could afford that, and he would make an impact.
Exactly, and this is the thing about tight end. I hear a lot of people like, "Oh, well, you need offensive line and stuff like that." The very first read that a quarterback uses when he's getting blitzed is his tight end. So like nobody's gonna be like, when you have someone like Kyle Pitts or Evan Ingram or Travis Kelce and they're going out, nobody's leaving them wide open. They're not gonna blitz that linebacker because they know that if they do that, he's there and he can take it to the house all the time. And that's what the quarterback safety blanket is. So if we add one of those to our offense, I just think that it would be, you know, a big help for this offense just overall. And it's just a guy that's a mismatch for a linebacker, for a corner, for anyone that you put on him. This man is like 6'5", 240 pounds, like, and he can jump. Like that's scary. I mean, we have literally sat here as Bengals fans and have been worried about any tight end tearing us up because it's such a hard position to kind of stop.
And Eifert for years. I mean, there was two seasons in there where arguably you could say Eifert was top 2 tight end in the league. Thanks. Like there was 2 seasons where you could say that. So if anybody knows the tight end position, like the Bengals would be, I mean, if anybody knows the tight end position, it would be the Bengals.
Right.
I still stand where I stand. If I got the number 5 pick, it only comes down to 2 people for me. It's Panay and Jamar Chase.
Right.
But I just thought that you doing that mock the other day is just showing people like this is what a tight end paired up with speed on the outside. Mind it now, they have Andy Reid, so I'm not trying to say like the play calling, the schemes, and everything like that. But Eric Bieniemy, hint, was out there, still out there, crazy. But I just thought that was a testament of like how fast you could turn it around and what it would take. And if you struck out at Kyle Pitts, to me, his ceiling is probably like, I think his ceiling, I feel like his floor. Let me play. I feel like his floor is higher than what you've gotten from CJ Uzomah. Right. And if you got that return on a tight end, whether you drafted him number 5 or not, I think I would be able to live with that. Like, I don't care. I wouldn't consider that a reach at that point. But if you're saying CJ Uzomah type numbers throughout the whole career, in tight end and linebacker are 2 positions that have the biggest learning curve to me in the National Football League.
Yeah, it's hard.
So those are the 2, because picking up the blitz, and I think that's the reason why a lot of people talk about Auden Tate, like converting a tight end. Towards the end of the year, they were starting to put him more like lining up as a tight end, right? But the blocking standpoint of what he brings to a team, like I was fired up on Twitter talking about some of the blocks from Kelsey. Like I was like, man, Kelsey going crazy. My man texted me, it was like, Kelsey just scored. I'm like, no, Damian Willis just got a 12-yard run on the strength of Kelsey. Then later on, the icing on the cake is, he caught 13 passes for 150 yards or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's a unicorn tight end. So I don't know if you would ever get that from Kyle Pitts, but I wouldn't be mad at trying.
Yeah, like for me, like I definitely get people that are like, oh, I want him to be a blocker and stuff like that. And that's cool, but like Evan Ingram did it. Like Evan Ingram tore like this league up. He just really couldn't stay healthy. So
Wofford for me, ain't the greatest blocker of all time either.
Exactly. Wofford, like to me is what do you want, right? Because like even if I'm playing devil's advocate, Aaron Hernandez wasn't the greatest blocker either. Like Aaron Hernandez was just a big receiver for the Patriots that nobody could cover. So like I get it. But, like, isn't that why you drafted Drew Sample? Isn't Drew Sample supposed to be the blocking guy? We already had that guy. The other thing about it, too, is, and I didn't realize this until I was playing Madden and running some simulations, I forgot that CJ tore his Achilles during the season. So, like, he's not going to be there for preseason. He's likely going to try to be back at the beginning of the season. So
it's looking good. He gave a report. He gave a report the other day because, him, Joe Burrow and Trey Hopkins are like training together right now. So
and I do with CJ Uzomah a speedy recovery because he's one of my favorite players. I'm not gonna sit up here and act like I don't like CJ.
For anybody that just got in here too, we interviewed Means. One person he forgot to mention that was part of the campaign that they did was CJ Uzomah
and Khalil Kareem too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was in it too. Yeah.
So he said 6 players. I was like, yeah, we only named like 4. So yeah, CJ Uzomah and Khalil Kareem was the 6th player.
Yeah, definitely.
But that was crazy that he was like Burrow going, maybe wearing I'm black owned. Like that's crazy. And that's a crazy look if you guys missed that earlier. But those are just some of the observations I just saw from the playoffs. And I just think that offensive line is always like this offseason is at the forefront of what the Bengals have to do. Right. I wasn't saying that Chiefs stat or their current lineup that they're about to roll out the Super Bowl
is trash or anything. You're just saying that it didn't put so much emphasis that every pick has to be a first round.
You can't do that for the sake of you have to have a balanced attack and it helps to have a mastermind coach. But at the end of the day, once you get people in a system that's good, that's working, and you're playing next to better players, it makes everybody better. So maybe what you didn't get from Billy Price, now that he's really excited that Frank Pollock is back, maybe you get that early in the season. Billy Price looks good at center, on the strength of Frank Pollock. Like all these different things that are variables that I think people need to weigh into before you just come on here and just say, shut up, Zem and Ace, like just get this guy offensive line, give him 5, like don't be so drastic and so in the moment at everything in life and just be so reactionary is my only caution is like, because I know you're looking at this right now. I'm talking to the guy that's sitting there saying, "You idiots, why don't you just get an offensive line?" I don't care who it is, right? But that's not the way football is won, right?
And like you're saying, there's still free agency. There's still all of these facts, and this is also a very deep lineman class. So like you can still get some really good linemen that you wouldn't be able to get in years past on day two.
In free agency, they better go crazy. They better give me one big signing in free agency is what I'm counting on the Bengals to do because they have the money to do that, right? So that's one thing that we're addressing. We've already addressed Frank Pollock is probably the best offensive line coach in football, if not top 3, right? So you got that going. Then when you go to draft, hell yeah, like you just said, the draft pool for the offensive line position is far better than what I'm saying from edge right now. So when you go in there, you're going to be saying, okay, if I don't get this guy there, these are like 10 guys I like in the second or third round. But then you go to edge, for example, and you'd be like, well, there's only like 2 guys I like. Yeah. So that's why I'm like, you can't just say, it's got to be this guy early on. It's got to be like this. We got to be able to say, we're going to get the best person available at whatever position it is. And I think they should, by just doing that, they'll come out of the draft with 2 new offensive linemen that are probably battle it out with anybody. And hopefully one of those draft picks is the number 5 pick at Panay. I'm still all team Panay.
We gotta talk about this though.
Slater.
Later. What do you think about the Slater thing? Like, how do you feel about the Slater thing?
Oh, how do I feel about the Slater?
We gotta get him out of here, y'all. We gotta get him out of here. Go ahead.
She's telling me I gotta eat pretty soon. So everybody that's online in the world, my wife, I'm still living a real life out here, so I can't just pod it out my whole life. But let me tell you about Slater before I go. Slater is a little undersized for what I would like. So ultimately, and that's like arm length, all the measurables that some of the greats have, right? And that's not the biggest thing in the world to me, right? But when I'm pairing that up with another guy, Jonah Williams, on the opposite side, that has that, it makes it from a defensive standpoint very, very simple to work on our pass schemes and our pass rush schemes and different things. I don't want anybody to come to play us to say, well, all of those guys aren't going to be able to reach and go over there. So we run this stunt here. Like, I think it makes our offensive line a little bit more predictable with Slater. But to get anybody at the number 5 pick, it's not a reach. It's just not the guy that I think the Bengals should draft. I think Slater probably is going to be an excellent offensive lineman. I hope we get him and Panay, right, in a perfect world, in some crazy scenario. But if it's me, I just think from what I've seen so far on tape, Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts, Panay, those 3 are ahead of Slater to me. So if it isn't those 3 names called right there, then I'm going to be sitting there looking at the screen like, Slater –
yeah, especially it's good the second round, and like let's just say Leatherwood is there. Like, nah, I'd rather have like Jamar Chase and Leatherwood or Kyle Pitts and Leatherwood than that. So
and that's the dilemma is you'll go to the board, you'll look at that and be looking at those players and saying, damn, we didn't get those guys, and it's going to feel like a reach. It's impossible to reach at number 5 to me because Slater's going to be really, really good. But how he fits for the Bengals and their current offensive line, I just don't think that's the way.
I feel like it's going to be a reach just because so many quarterbacks are going to get taken. Like, let's just say, for instance, 3 quarterbacks get taken and then Panay is taken right before us. Like, Slater to me at that point is a reach. Like, over the guys that are on the board at that point, like Slater is a reach at that.
The draft for me is 2 guys, Jamar Chase and Panay. I'm sorry. Right. And if I could trade down, it sounds easy. It's not that simple. But if I could trade down, I would entertain like 10 guys. Like, then you could get me on board with Parsons or Sante Samuel Jr. I'm just throwing out whoever. But you can get me on board with a lot of guys.
Right.
If I were in the trade down.
So we're about to get ready to wrap up and get out of here. Mr. Whisperer says, is Parsons in the conversation if Sewell and Chase are gone? We kind of answered this last week. He's not really in the conversation for me unless you're claiming on using him as an edge rusher. But based on us needing offense, Parsons isn't there for me on that aspect. Would adding him hurt the development of the other linebackers by taking away playing time? Nah, because if he can step in day one, if you feel like Parsons is that guy, which if you're picking him in the top 5, he should step in day one. I'm not worried about anybody else. I'm plugging him in from day one. But thank you guys for joining us here at the Orange is the New Black podcast. Then was there anything that you want to say before we get out of here?
Nope. I want to say thank you to Macho Means again. I'm Black Owned is a wonderful brand, so I'm really, really glad that we got a chance to talk to him. Ace is wearing some of it now. If you missed that earlier in the show, please make sure you follow him. Very, very grateful, very thankful to have him on the show, and be looking for more stuff. Like that's downtown in a natty, somebody representing and working currently with the Bengals. Like, how about that? How about to develop a clothing line and then work with your favorite team? You know,
That's dope. That's dope. When I saw it, I had to get it like immediately. And if you guys are listening, there should be a link in the description for that. Directly to the Stripes Don't Come Easy merch. He said that they're going to be doing that for a year. So stay tuned. They're going to have more pieces coming, and I'm definitely going to be grabbing some more pieces myself. But thank you guys for tuning in for the Orange is the New Black podcast. Be sure to follow Zim on Instagram at Zim_Hude and on Twitter at ZimHude.
Mock free agent Mock 3.0 coming up soon, where we're going to have a fan on here next episode.
Hello, world. What separated your deep ball from everybody else?
My deep ball, it has a little secret sauce to it, man.
Never get too high, never get too low, but just keep moving.
The whole story is Carlos never beat me in any kind of sports in high school.